Avadhut Gita by Dattatreya Avadhut. Introduction. Life and Teachings of Dattatreya Avadhut. His life. Every religion has three parts: philosophy, ritual, and mythology. Philosophy is the foundation on which ritual builds the superstructure, and this in turn is decorated by mythology. In ancient times, mythology was highly valued by men because these collections of stories embodied their traditional, cultural, and religious views. Modern men, on the other hand, view mythology with skepticism. They feel myths are fables, concocted stories, and historical traditions, and above all, they have no practical application in human life. But in fact, the fascinating power of mythology holds the spirit of religion for the masses of the world. But in fact, the fascinating power of mythology holds the spirit of religion for the masses of the world. The speaker of truth, however, must possess an alert mind and clear judgment. Otherwise, he might simply enjoy these myths as charming tales and miss their teachings. Innumerable stories are found in the Vedas, Puranas, and epics, most of which illustrate the eternal teachings of Vedanta. But it is the teachings rather than the stories, fascinating and entertaining though they may be, that are the raison d'etre of the scriptures. For example, although the Mahabharata is composed of 100,000 verses containing innumerable stories and hosts of characters, it is the teachings contained in the 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita that are the quintessence of that great epic. The Avadhut Gita, one of the most celebrated and important books of Vedanta, is reported to have been written by the sage Dattatreya. There are several anecdotes concerning Dattatreya in the Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, and Vishnu Purana, as well as the Markandeya Purana, which contains a short biographical sketch. The story goes like this. There once lived an old Brahmin who was a leper. His wife, known far and wide for her wonderful chastity, was very dutiful and loving to her husband, nursing him with great devotion and steadfastness. One night, while carrying her invalid husband along a road, she passed by a tree under which a hermit was meditating. Since it was a very dark night, the wife did not see the hermit, and as she walked by, the feet of her husband accidentally brushed against the body of the meditating hermit. The hermit was very furious and cursed her husband, saying, "He who has kicked me and disturbed my meditation shall die at sunrise tomorrow." Naturally, the wife was very upset, but calming herself, she replied, "From tomorrow there will be no sunrise. Since what is uttered by a chaste woman must come true, the sun did not rise the next day. The world was filled with darkness and chaos prevailed. The gods went to Brahma, the creator, for a solution. He said, 'Only power can overwhelm power, and only tapasya, that is spiritual practice, can surmount tapasya. The power of a chaste woman has stopped the sunrise, so we must seek the help of another chaste woman who can counteract her power and restore the sunrise.' At Brahma's suggestion, the gods sought out Anusuya, the pure and virtuous wife of the sage Atri. They told her the whole story and asked for help. Moved by their pleas, Anusuya approached the Brahmin's wife with sweet words, saying, "The power of your word has stopped the sunrise, and as a result, the whole creation is in a chaotic condition. I have come to see if we can reach an amicable agreement. If you withdraw your command and ask the sun to rise again, I shall restore life of your dead husband with my power of chastity." The Brahmin's wife agreed. The sun rose, and Anusuya kept her promise. The gods, extremely pleased, offered Anusuya a boon. In reply, She asked that Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva be born as her sons, a wish that was granted, and in due course Brahma was born as Soma, Vishnu as Dattatreya, and Shiva as Durvasa. Dattatreya, an incarnation of Vishnu, was a great sage and yogi who practiced various kinds of austerities and many forms of yoga. He had a magnetic personality which attracted young sages so much that they followed him wherever he went. Dattatreya, however, wanted to be alone since solitude is more conducive to the practice of yoga. In order to free himself from the distraction of these young followers, he submerged himself in a lake, remaining on the bottom for a long time. Still, they would not go away. They stayed on the shore of the lake, waiting for him to reappear. Dattatreya then hit upon another plan to avoid the crowd. He arose from the bottom of the lake in the company of a beautiful woman who was none other than his consort, the goddess Lakshmi. Dattatreya thought that the students, not knowing who the woman was, would think that he had fallen from his high state of yoga and disillusioned. Then they would leave him. But the young sages were not deceived. They knew that Dattatreya was an incarnation of Vishnu and great yogi, that he was beyond good and evil, and that his outward behavior was a mere show. Consequently, nothing could contaminate him, as a lotus leaf cannot be moistened by the water on which it floats, so the mind of a yogi cannot be touched by worldliness. The young sages reasoned in this manner and remained with their revered teacher Dattatreya. At another time, there was a war between the gods and the demons. The gods fought valiantly but were defeated and banished from heaven by the demons. In desperation, they went for counsel to Brihaspati, their guru, who sent them to Dattatreya. But when Dattatreya was approached by the gods for help, he said, "Why do you come to me? I eat defiled food and live with a woman. Do you think such a person can help you conquer your enemies?" "O venerable Lord," the gods replied, "you are always sinless. Be gracious unto us. You are a yogi. Your mind shines with the knowledge of Brahman, and no ignorance dares come near you. This woman is the mother of the universe and ever pure, the very embodiment of purity, so her company cannot make you impure." Dattatreya was pleased and said, "All right, if you have such unwavering faith in me, then challenge the demons and lure them here before me. Through my spiritual force, I shall reduce their power, and then you may attack." Following Dattatreya's command, the gods challenged the demons, who immediately gave chase, pursuing the gods to Dattatreya's hermitage. There, the demons found Lakshmi, seated beside Dattatreya, who was immersed in meditation. Completely overcome by her charm and beauty, they seized Lakshmi and carried her away on their heads. At this, Dattatreya laughed and said to the gods, "Victory is yours, for it is a sinful act to touch another's wife. By doing so, they have weakened their physical power, and at the same time, their unleashed passion has driven them out of their minds. Now attack and conquer." The gods followed his command. Destroying the demons, they rescued Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, and returned her to the side of Dattatreya. Once more, gods were happy. The greatness of Dattatreya has been recounted in many scriptures. At times, he is portrayed as ascetic and a yogi who grants lavish boons. Again, he is described as being worldly, luxury loving, and carefree. This second side of him, of course, was his Maya, which he displayed before ordinary people, hoping that they would become filled with disgust and leave him alone. But the wise saw his real nature and stayed in his company, receiving his blessings and boons. The beauty of Indian mythology lies in the fact that by means of vivid and unforgettable stories, devoid of philosophical argument, practical lessons are presented to ordinary people for their edification and inspiration. Thus, the legend of Dattatreya keeps us mindful of the supreme goal of human life. Seek God if you want peace and bliss. If you allow yourself to be hypnotized by Maya, then, like the demons, you will be destroyed. His teachings. Only a yogi has the right to teach the yogas. As an incarnation of Vishnu, Dattatreya was literally a born yogi. Consequently, he had many disciples whom he initiated into the yogic mysteries. Here are some examples of his illuminating instructions. My children, let me tell you one thing. If you want to attain perfection in tapasya, in japam, chanting the name of the Lord, or in yoga, you need tremendous perseverance. If you have this indispensable first qualification, you can attain anything you choose, be it enlightenment, be it the state of a god, or be it the highest position in heaven or on earth. For those who have controlled their minds and senses and who perceive with great energy, there is nothing unknowable, nor is there anything unattainable anywhere. A tiny ant, if it crawls persistently, can travel thousands of miles. On the other hand, Garuda, the king of birds and the carrier of Vishnu, cannot cross over even a small ditch if he does not make the effort to fly. My children, if you want to practice yoga, you must remove all attachment from your hearts. If you cannot do this, then keep the company of holy men, for for holy company is the panacea for the disease of worldliness. Give up all desires. But if you cannot do this, then cultivate a desire for liberation. But if you cannot do this, then cultivate a desire for liberation. The desire for liberation destroys all other desires. He who forsakes the immortal, indivisible, immutable, ever free Atman and becomes involved in sense pleasure is like a wild crow whose attention is always fixed on filth. Shun carnality in thought, word, and deed. If your mind delights in sensual pleasure, you will miss heaven and liberation. Sensuality leads to misery and bondage, while spirituality leads to happiness and liberation. Fools enjoy contact with the body of another, which is filled with filth and made of flesh, blood, bones, marrow, fat, phlegm, and other impure elements. The wise shun such contact. Know this. There are three kinds of intoxicants made from molasses, honey, and corn. But there is a fourth, the wine of carnality, which intoxicates the whole world. The wise should transcend worldly desires and concentrate on the supreme reality. The essential ingredients for the human body are controlled by the moods of the mind. When the mind is troubled and unbalanced, its moods become correspondingly unbalanced and devour it. Therefore, the mind should be protected by every possible means. Discrimination is possible only when the mind is calm. Always discriminate. When you distinguish between the Atman and the non Atman, you have reached the culmination of yoga. As this discrimination grows in the mind of a yogi, he reasons thus: I am not this body, which is composed of earth, air, water, fire, and space, and yet clinging to this body, I desire happiness. Pleasure and pain alike come and go in the body. Since I am not the body, and since in my true nature there is no ebb and flow, I am always the same, serene, peaceful, unmoved by outer events. Likewise, enjoyment and misery have their beginning and end in the mind. Again, since I am not the mind, and since my true nature has neither beginning nor end, I am always the same, serene, peaceful, unmoved by inner events. Let pleasure and pain, enjoyment and misery remain in the body or the mind. It matters nothing to me, for I am the Atman, existence, knowledge, bliss absolute. Why should I care for virtue if I have no body? Of what use to me is wealth if I have no hands or feet or head? Therefore, in reality, I have no foe or friend, misery or happiness, home or wealth. And if this is true for me, then it is true for all. Space, that is Akasha, is one, but it takes form according to its container. And so there appear to be pot space, jar space, room space, and so on. Similarly, the Atman is one, but it seems to be many, living in many bodies. My dear children, I have told you briefly about discrimination between the Atman and the non-Atman. Only a man of same-sightedness, only he who sees nothing but the Atman in all things, everywhere and at all times, can attain to this lofty state. Those who see duality are always submerged in an ocean of grief. The mind of man fastens itself to various material objects, hoping to find enjoyment in them. Instead, it gathers only misery. If your pet bird is killed by a cat, you feel bad. On the other hand, if the same cat kills a mouse, it does not bother you at all. So, it is the attachment that brings misery. In non attachment lies the only true happiness. Again, happiness and misery depend on the distribution of gunas, that is, the qualities. If there is a preponderance of sattva, that is tranquility, a man is happy. And if tamas, which is inertia, or rajas, which is restlessness, prevails, he is unhappy. Here is the simile. A man's ignorance is like a tree. The ego is its sprout, from which springs up the trunk of attachment, with house and properties as its branches. Wife, children, and relatives are the twigs on which grow the leaves of wealth and crops. Virtue and vice are the flowers, happiness and misery are the fruits. And this tree, which has grown vigorously throughout untold centuries and now blocks the path of liberation, has been watered and nourished by the hypnotic spell of delusion. Desire for sense objects is like a cloud of wild bees swarming around the tree. Their humming lulls those who weary souls, engrossed in worldly enjoyment, who take rest in its shade, or there is no hope for their liberation. On the other hand, those who have sharpened the axe for knowledge on the whetstone of holy company can chop down this tree of ignorance and enter into the quiet, serene park of Brahman, where there is freedom from the thorny plants of craving and the blinding dust of desire. Here, all mental waves cease to function and one attains illumination. We are not the result of elements combined with senses. We are the Atman and beyond Maya. As a fish lives in water, yet is different from it, so the Atman lives in the body but is different from it. A man, through constant practice of yoga, frees himself from ignorance and attains unitive knowledge. This is called liberation, or mukti. Liberation originates from yoga, and yoga from discriminatory knowledge from misery, and misery from attachment. Thus, the man who seeks liberation must shun all forms of attachment. Non attachment begets happiness, and as non attachment arises from discrimination, so the life stream of unity knowledge is non attachment. Listen, here is the way to realize the Supreme Self. Purify all sense organs through pranayama, breath control, all sense objects through pratyahara, withdrawal of the mind, all mental evils through dharana, concentration, and finally burn all three gunas through dhyana, meditation. As fire purifies metal, so tapasya, spiritual discipline, purifies the body, the senses, and the mind. Through the practice of pranayama, one can conquer fatigue, restlessness, and melancholy, as one can tame by love and affection such ferocious animals as the lion, the tiger, and the elephant. So the yogi, through pranayama, conquers the all powerful vital force, prana. Then everything is under his control and he can do anything he chooses. As to posture, sit in a comfortable way. There are many postures, but select that one which helps you to sit without moving for a long time. The upper teeth and the lower teeth should not touch. Keep the eyes slightly open, just enough to see the tip of the nose. First conquer tamas by rajas, then conquer rajas by sattva, and finally be absorbed in pure Brahman. As a tortoise withdraws its limbs into its shell, so a yogi withdraws his mind and senses from the worldly objects and concentrates on the Atma. This is the way one can realize the Supreme Self. There are 10 points of concentration. First, the navel, then gradually progressing upward to the heart, the breast, throat, mouth, tip of the nose, eyes, between the eyebrows, the forehead, and last of all, on the Supreme Brahma. When a person reaches perfection in these 10 concentrations, he becomes one with Brahma, free from disease and death. This is the final stage of yoga. A few words of caution: do not practice yoga when you are hungry, tired, or worried. Avoid meditation in a place of extreme cold or heat. Do not practice yoga near fire or water, in a crowded place, in a dirty pasture, at the junction of four roads, among dry leaves, in a palace, in a cremation ground, or in any place that may engender fear. Environment plays a vital role in the practice of yoga. Shun evil company mercilessly. Later, when your mind is filled with God consciousness, neither space nor time nor company will be able to disturb you. Yoga can be very effective. If you feel hot, meditate on snow. If you are cold, concentrate on fire. If you find that your mind is restless, think that you are a vast, motionless mountain and that nothing can shake you. Some of the signs of a yogi are: his body is free from disease and a beautiful fragrance emanates from it. His mind is calm and free from cruelty. His face is serene. His voice is sweet. His entire complexion is bright. His body excretes little. People love to praise him in his absence. He fears no one, nor is he feared by anyone.